Mongolia's history is marked by vast nomadic empires, legendary conquerors, and the blending of diverse cultures. Located between China and Russia, Mongolia has long been a land of nomadic herders and warriors. Its most famous figure, Genghis Khan, unified the Mongol tribes in the 13th century and established one of the largest empires in history. The Mongol Empire left a lasting imprint on Eurasia, shaping the course of history through its conquests, administration, and cultural exchanges. In the centuries that followed, Mongolia underwent periods of fragmentation, foreign domination, and eventual independence, evolving into the modern state it is today. Early history in nomadic tribes. Prehistoric Mongolia. Human presence in Mongolia dates back to the Paleolithic era, with archaeological findings indicating early human settlement. The harsh climate and vast steppes led to the development of a nomadic way of life. By the Bronze Age, around 2000 BCE, various tribal groups inhabited the region, engaging in herding, hunting, and limited agriculture. The Xiongnu Empire, 3rd century BCE, 1st century CE. One of the earliest known empires to rise in Mongolia was the Xiongnu, a confederation of nomadic tribes that became a significant power around the 3rd century BCE. The Xiongnu were often considered the precursors to later Mongol and Turkic empires. They established a formidable presence on the northern frontier of China, often clashing with the Han dynasty. In response to the Xiongnu's raids and military prowess, the Chinese constructed the Great Wall of China to defend against their incursions. The Xiongnu's dominance over the Mongolian steppe lasted for several centuries before internal divisions and external pressures from China and other nomadic groups led to their decline. The Turkic and Uyghur empires, 6th–9th century. Following the fall of the Xiongnu, several Turkic-speaking groups emerged in Mongolia. The most prominent of these was the Göktürk Empire, 552–744 CE, which controlled vast areas of Central Asia and Mongolia. The Göktürks were skilled horsemen and warriors, and they established strong trade relations with China, the Persian Empire, and the Byzantine Empire. After the collapse of the Göktürk Empire, the Uyghur Empire, 744–840 CE, rose to power in the region. The Uyghurs ruled over much of Mongolia and parts of Central Asia, developing a sophisticated culture that included the use of a writing system and the adoption of Manichaeism and later Buddhism. The Mongol Empire and Genghis Khan. The rise of Genghis Khan, 13th century. The defining moment in Mongolia's history came with the rise of Genghis Khan, born Temujin, who united the fractious Mongol tribes and forged the largest contiguous empire in history. Born in 1162 into a noble family, Temujin faced significant challenges, including the assassination of his father and the subsequent loss of his family's wealth and status. Despite these hardships, he gradually gathered followers and built alliances with other Mongol clans. In 1206, Temujin was declared Genghis Khan, or universal ruler, at a tribal council known as a Kurultai. With this title, Genghis Khan set out to expand his dominion beyond Mongolia. His military genius, combined with the highly mobile and disciplined Mongol cavalry, allowed him to conquer vast territories with unprecedented speed. The Mongol conquests and the empire's expansion under Genghis Khan's leadership, the Mongols launched a series of invasions that reshaped the political landscape of Eurasia. Beginning with the defeat of the Western Shah and Jin dynasties in China, the Mongol armies expanded westward, conquering the Khwarezmian Empire in Persia, the Kievan Rus in Eastern Europe, and parts of the Islamic Caliphate. By the time of Genghis Khan's death in 1227, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. His successors continued the expansion, with Ogedei Khan and Kublai Khan furthering Mongol conquests in the Middle East, China, and Southeast Asia. At its height, the Mongol Empire was the largest in history, covering most of Eurasia. The Mongols were not only conquerors but also effective administrators. Genghis Khan established a legal code known as the Yasa, and the empire promoted trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange across the Silk Road. The period of Mongol rule is often credited with fostering a Pax Mongolica, a time of relative peace and stability that allowed trade and ideas to flow across Asia and Europe. Kublai Khan and the Yuan dynasty, 1271–1368, one of Genghis Khan's grandsons, Kublai Khan, became one of the most notable rulers of the Mongol Empire. In 1271, Kublai established the Yuan dynasty in China, becoming the first non-Chinese emperor to rule the entirety of China. Under Kublai's rule, the Mongol Empire reached its greatest territorial extent, but it also became increasingly fragmented. The Yuan dynasty saw significant cultural exchanges between China and the Mongol rulers, as well as the flourishing of trade along the Silk Road. However, by the late 14th century, internal strife and popular uprisings, including the Red Turban Rebellion, weakened the Yuan dynasty, leading to its eventual fall to the Ming dynasty in 1368. Post-Mongol Empire. Fragmentation and foreign domination. The collapse of the Mongol Empire after the death of Kublai Khan. The Mongol Empire began to fracture into separate khanates, each ruled by different descendants of Genghis Khan. These included the Golden Horde in Russia, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Ilkhanate in Persia. Although these khanates continued to wield power for several centuries, none matched the size or influence of the original empire. Mongolia itself became a battleground for various khans and regional powers. By the 15th century, the power of the Mongol khans had waned, and the region was divided into multiple warring factions. The Oirat and the Dzungar Khanate, 17th century. In the 17th century, the Oirat Mongols established the Dzungar Khanate in western Mongolia. The Dzungars were one of the last powerful nomadic groups in Central Asia, and they engaged in a series of conflicts with the Manchu Qing dynasty of China. The Qing launched a series of military campaigns against the Dzungars, ultimately destroying the Khanate in the mid-18th century. Mongolia. Under the Qing dynasty. By the late 17th century, Mongolia had come under the control of the Qing dynasty, which ruled China and much of Inner Asia. The Qing incorporated Outer Mongolia, Modern Mongolia, and Inner Mongolia, now part of China, into their empire. Under Qing rule, Mongolian society was heavily influenced by Tibetan Buddhism, which became the dominant religion in the region. While the Qing emperors allowed the Mongols to retain some degree of autonomy, they imposed strict controls over the region's political and economic life. The Mongolian nobility, or khans, were incorporated into the Qing aristocracy, and large numbers of Chinese settlers moved into Inner Mongolia. The decline of the Qing dynasty in the late 19th century, coupled with rising nationalist sentiments, led to increasing unrest in Mongolia and other parts of the Qing Empire. Mongolian independence in the 20th century. The Mongolian Revolution of 1911, the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911, provided an opportunity for Mongolia to assert its independence. In December 1911, with the support of Tibetan Buddhist leaders, Mongolia declared its independence from China, establishing the Bogd Khanate under Bogd Khan, a religious figurehead. However, Mongolia's independence was fragile, and the region was caught between competing powers, including Russia, China, and Japan. Following the Russian Revolution of 1917, Mongolia became a key battleground in the Russian Civil War, as White and Red Russian forces vied for control. The rise of communism in Mongolia. In the 1920s, Mongolia's political landscape underwent a dramatic transformation. With the support of Soviet Russia, the Mongolian People's Party, later the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party, seized power and established the Mongolian People's Republic in 1924. Sutbadar, one of the key revolutionary leaders, is often considered the father of modern Mongolia. The establishment of the Mongolian People's Republic made Mongolia the world's second communist state, following the Soviet Union. Mongolia's government implemented radical changes, including the nationalization of land, the suppression of Buddhism, and the introduction of collectivized agriculture. Mongolia became a close ally of the Soviet Union during the Cold War and was heavily influenced by Soviet political and economic models. World War II and Cold War era. During World War II, Mongolia played a key role in the Soviet war effort against Japan. The Battle of Khalkhin Gol in 1939, fought along the Mongolia-Manchuria border, was a decisive Soviet-Mongolian victory that helped deter further Japanese expansion into Mongolia. Throughout the Cold War, Mongolia remained firmly within the Soviet sphere of influence. The Mongolian People's Republic maintained close ties with Moscow, and its economy relied heavily on Soviet aid and trade. However, Mongolia remained isolated from much of the world and faced significant economic challenges. Modern Mongolia. The Democratic Revolution of 1990. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 brought dramatic changes to Mongolia. In 1990, A peaceful democratic revolution led to the end of communist rule and the establishment of a multi-party democracy. The new constitution, adopted in 1992, created a parliamentary system and guaranteed political freedoms. Since the 1990s, Mongolia has undergone significant economic and political reforms. The country has moved toward a market economy, with mining, particularly for copper and coal, becoming a major industry. However, Mongolia continues to face challenges, including economic inequality, corruption, and environmental degradation. Mongolia in the 21st century. Today, Mongolia is a democracy with a rapidly developing economy. Its strategic location between China and Russia has made it a key player in regional politics, and it has sought to balance its relations with both of its powerful neighbors. Mongolia has also strengthened ties with other countries, including the United States, Japan, and South Korea, as part of its third neighbor policy. Mongolia's rich history, from the rise of the Mongol Empire to its modern democratic statehood, continues to shape its identity and influence its place in the world. Conclusion: Mongolia's history is a testament to the resilience and adaptability of its people. From the nomadic empires of the ancient steppe to the modern challenges of statehood, Mongolia has navigated conquest, foreign domination, and revolution. Today, it stands as a unique example of a nation that has preserved its cultural heritage while embracing democratic governance and economic development.